If you're new here, welcome. I'm Aqua, or Aquarius of Fallen Snow. If you don't know me, consider subscribing and joining the family. If you already are subscribed and you've been here before, welcome back. Good to see you. So in this video, we're going to be exploring 5 commonly confused mental health terms and conditions: psychopathy, insanity, schizophrenia, psychosis, and Alzheimer's disease. A question that recently popped up in my mind is there a connection between psychopathy and nepotism or incest? So today, we're going to be discussing what makes each unique and dive into a fascinating world of genetics and hereditary mental health. So let's start with a quick overview of the conditions, right? Starting with psychopathy. It's a personality disorder characterized by lack of empathy and remorse, antisocial behavior, egocentricity, and charm. It's important to note that not all psychopaths engage in criminal behavior, and the condition isn't treatable with medicine. Psychopathy likely has both genetic and environmental origins, with hereditability estimated around 50%. Next, let's clear up some common misconceptions about insanity. It's actually a legal term, not a medical diagnosis. It refers to a mental state that prevents someone from understanding the nature of their actions. Used as a defense in criminal cases, it does not correspond to any specific psychiatric disorder. And because it's a legal condition, we can't talk about the genetics of insanity. Schizophrenia, on the other hand, is a chronic mental illness involving hallucination and delusions, disorganized thinking and speech, reduced emotional expression, and cognitive impairments. Schizophrenia usually emerges in early adulthood and is treatable with antipsychotic medications and therapy. It's crucial to note that it is not the same as having multiple personalities. What makes schizophrenia particularly interesting from a genetic perspective is it is high hereditability. Studies suggest that schizophrenia is 60 to 80% hereditable. This means that genetic factors play a significant role in determining who develops the condition. Let's break down some key points about the genetics of schizophrenia. So first, family risk. If a parent has schizophrenia, their child's risk increases by about 10%. Siblings of individuals with schizophrenia also have around a 10% risk. Twin studies. The highest risk is observed in identical twins. If one twin has schizophrenia, the other has up to a 50% chance of developing it as well. This isn't a 100% chance, which tells us that the genes are important, but not the whole story. So genetic complexity. There isn't a single schizophrenia gene. Instead, multiple genetic variations contribute to the risk. These genetic changes may affect brain development, neurotransmitter systems, and immune function. Moving on to specific genetic findings, one exciting discovery is the role of the C4 gene. This gene is involved in synaptic pruning, the process where the brain eliminates unnecessary connections. Variations in the C4 gene structure can predict its activity in the brain and correlate with schizophrenia risk. And then the gene-environment interaction. While genetics play a crucial role, environmental factors can trigger the development of schizophrenia in genetically susceptible individuals. This interaction between the genes and environment, known as epigenetics, is an important area of ongoing research. But now let's move on to psychosis. It's important to understand that this term refers to a set of symptoms, not a specific disorder. Psychosis involves loss of contact with reality as well as hallucinations similar to schizophrenia. Psychosis can occur in schizophrenia, but also in other conditions. It may be triggered by substance use or extreme stress. The genetic factors of psychosis vary depending on the underlying cause. And then lastly, let's discuss Alzheimer's disease, a progressive neurological disorder causing memory loss and cognitive decline, changes in behavior and personality, and difficulties with daily tasks. Alzheimer's is most common in older adults, but is not a normal part of aging. While it can involve psychotic symptoms in some cases, it's primarily a neurodegenerative condition. Genetically, Alzheimer's is interesting because it has different forms, like the differences between early onset Alzheimer's and late onset Alzheimer's. Early onset is rare and often runs in families, has been linked to specific gene mutations. late onset Alzheimer's, the most common form, has a complex genetic picture with multiple genes involved. Now, when comparing these conditions, schizophrenia stands out as having the strongest and most well-established genetic component. However, it's crucial to understand that genetics is just one factor. Environmental triggers, brain development, and other biological processes also play significant roles. Recent large-scale genetic studies are providing new insights into various psychiatric conditions. The SHIMA Consortium identified rare mutations in 10 genes that significantly increase schizophrenia risk, while the Psychiatric Genomic Consortium has identified 287 regions of the genome associated with schizophrenia risk. These findings are helping researchers understand the biological mechanisms underlying various psychiatric conditions, potentially leading to better diagnostic tools and treatments in the future. Here's some additional information on psychopathy. Based on the research results provided, there's no evidence to suggest that psychopathy is specifically linked to royalty or celebrities. The information focuses more on psychopathy in workplace and leadership contexts. Psychopathy is estimated to occur in about 1% of the general population, but may be more prevalent in certain professions or leadership positions. Some careers that attract higher proportions of people with psychopathic traits include CEOs, lawyers, media personalities, salespeople, and surgeons. Notably, some of these overlap with celebrity professions. Traits that can be advantageous in high-profile careers and may overlap with psychopathic tendencies include charm and charisma, cool-headedness under pressure, self-confidence and boldness, goal orientation and ambition, and finally, ability to make quick decisions. In leadership positions, including CEOs, psychopathic traits like fearlessness, charisma, and ruthlessness may provide certain advantages. Some people with psychopathic traits may be successful or socially adept, expressing antisocial behavior through more covert means like social manipulation rather than overt criminality. So that being said, which industries see the highest level of people who show psychopathic tendencies? Based on the research results provided, there isn't specific data on which industries have the highest number of psychopaths. However, we can draw some relevant insights. Corporate leadership positions. Research suggests that psychopathic traits are more prevalent in corporate leadership roles compared to the general population. One study found that about 12% of corporate senior leadership displays a range of psychopathic traits, which is significantly higher than the estimated 1% of the general population. And then leadership positions in general, evidence suggests that those in positions of leadership, whether in organizations, government, or countries, have a higher probability of psychopathic tendencies. That being said, it's important to note that having psychopathic traits doesn't necessarily mean someone is clinically psychopathic. These traits exist on a spectrum, and some may be advantageous in certain professional contexts when moderated. The research also highlights that psychopathic traits in leadership can have negative impacts on organizations, including poor performance reviews, higher staff turnover, and increased workplace conflict. However, some studies suggest that moderate levels of certain psychopathic traits might be associated with more effective leadership in some contexts. And lastly, there is an interesting gender difference noted in the research, seem to provide an advantage for men in attaining and being perceived as effective in leadership roles, while the opposite is true for women. So, in conclusion to the research that we reviewed today, while these conditions, psychopathy, insanity, schizophrenia, psychosis, and Alzheimer's disease, may share some overlapping symptoms, they are not distinct in their causes, presentations, and treatments. Understanding the differences is crucial for proper diagnosis and care. The role of genetics in mental health is fascinating and a rapidly evolving field of study. While we've made significant progress, especially in understanding conditions like schizophrenia, there's still much to learn. As research continues, we hope to gain even more insights that will lead to better provisions, diagnosis, and treatment of these complex conditions. Now, in terms of the question I posed at the start of the video, I think there is definitely a connection in psychopathy and roles of leadership. it would make sense to an extent that children would inherit psychopathic traits because of the environment that they would be raised in and possibly the genetics of their parents. Now, you can interpret this data however you want. I think it's very important to remember that people of similar incomes and power levels in life will usually flock together. In my mind, even though psychopathy is a spectrum and not all cases are the same, wouldn't it instantly increase your odds of having a child with psychopathic traits the higher your salary or power level in whatever career path? Wouldn't this mean that even if you don't show traits, you may be more likely to develop some over time and pass them down to your next of kin? Now, I'm not saying that everyone at a high level is a psychopath or shows psychopathic traits, but that could be one of the main factors that helps get individuals to the highest level in their career path. And I guess I'll add some thoughts off the top of my head. It would make sense that, children born to these families, born into nepotism, would kind of inherently show signs of psychopathic traits because of the money and the power that's around them as they're growing up, right? And then, of course, there's the factor of the parents, how they treat the child and each other, and what kind of environment the child has to grow up in at home, not to mention outside of the home. And chances are, if these children are born into a family with money, they're probably going to schools and to environments with other kids that have lots of money and are at a higher level in society, right? Which would lead me to believe that even if they don't have them inherently, they could develop these traits of psychopathy over time, and then it affects us, the average everyday person, because these are the people that are controlling our jobs and our income, control our governments, they control everything, really. Not to mention celebrities and entertainment and like all the movies and shows we watch, right? So I think my theory does have legs to stand on. I'm just not a scientist, and I would have to do a lot more research. This is just kind of my initial thesis, right? My initial theory. If you enjoyed, make sure you like the video. It means a lot and it helps the channel a ton. But check out my channel for more videos like this, not to mention podcast episodes, live rap show highlights, other theory videos. Consider subscribing while you're there to join the family, and then you never miss the next video. And I'm always working on something new, so you never know what the next drop's gonna be. That being said, I'm gonna leave this video here. Again, I hope you enjoyed. I love you. Stay safe. Good luck. Ease.